So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on where you're connecting from. You're welcome to the maiden edition of the Tech Founders Fireside Chat. And my name is Benjamin Larbi. I'm a communications professional and the head of the communications unit at Regent University College of Science and Technology. And we are the organizers of tonight's webinar. The Tech Founders Fireside Chat brings together young innovators and founders of technology companies of African origin and are paving the way, revolutionizing their industries and making an impact across borders. The Fireside Chat series serves as a platform to spotlight bold, visionary tech entrepreneurs who are respected in their fields. They possess global visions and are also working tirelessly to create new possibilities. So it serves as a platform for speakers to share their strategies, their challenges, and their triumphs as they share their knowledge and experiences on their individual entrepreneurial journeys. So for this first session, this maiden edition, we're privileged to have the co-founder of Effect Studios, Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo, serving as a speaker. And the topic for discussion today is the art and science of product development. The art and science of product development. So our speaker will speak for 30 minutes, after which there will be a 10-minute question and answer session. So as a quick reminder to our audience, if there's any questions you would want to ask on the said topic or on our speaker's presentation, do feel free to drop the question in the in-call messages box, or you can simply wait till the question and answer session to ask your question, and our speaker would attempt to answer your questions. So at this juncture, I'll proceed to introduce our speaker by reading his profile. So our speaker is Michael Mettle-Nunoo, as I've mentioned already, and he's the co-founder of Effect Studios. He's a lifelong technology enthusiast who began his entrepreneurial journey in high school, repairing Apple devices at a time when authorized sales shops for Apple in Accra were scarce. During his university years at Regent University College of Science and Technology, Michael founded Effect Studios, which has since transitioned from a creative art agency to a company specializing in architecting digital solutions that resonate across industries and also enhance experiences and drive business evolution. With over a decade of experience in this space, his company boasts a portfolio of leading brands from various industries as clients, including Total Energies, Maserati, GT Bank, Dentsu, and the Enterprise Group, to mention but a few. He is currently pursuing a global MBA at Halt International Business School, and he's dedicated to expanding his understanding of the global business landscape while continuing to pursue his dream of leading digital transformation in Africa. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Michael Mettle-Nunoo. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you, Ben, for the introduction. And I didn't even know that was me you were talking about. But again, yeah, thank you. And so for today, we'll be looking at the art and science of product development. That's a conversation that we'll be having. And by every now and then, I might segue a little bit into general entrepreneurship and doing business in the tech industry, since that's my area of expertise. So I'll just dive straight in and tell you a little bit about myself, my journey, and like what I've done over the years to get to this point. So I went to Presec in Ghana. That's where I did my high school and did general science there. Then moved on to Regent University where I did applied electronics and systems engineering. So it's basically like a computer engineering degree merged with computer science. So it's still along the lines of things I've had interest in since I was basically a child. And then now I'm doing an MBA at Holt International Business School. The reason behind this seemingly switch in the journey is to get a better understanding of the global landscape of the business side of what we are doing locally. Because I've always maintained that I think the difference between us and anybody else doing the same thing is geography and opportunities. So this is me challenging myself along this journey. Now, to go over a little bit with regards to my work and business experiences. Whilst I was in the university at Regent, I had the opportunity to be a Google Student Ambassador, where you are interfacing with Google and your university. You get to learn a lot about technology, interface with people, my peers who are doing similar programs and have similar interests from across the continent, host events on campus. You basically get to practice your passion with the backing of a global conglomerate like Google. Then it was over there that I had also started working with, started my first business, which is called Aparafix. Aparafix was meant to be fixing software and hardware issues for people that had Apple devices. Apple was just getting, climbing the ladder on the global scene, made its way to Ghana. Most people were using it, but you don't really have an authorized person that you can, or a company you could send your devices to whenever you had any challenges. So I saw there was an opportunity there, and recognizing that everything that you need to be able to execute this is readily available through the internet. So educated myself on it. So together with me and two other friends, started the business at Parafix. Now, whilst running at Parafix and recognizing also that there is technology that we could leverage because we're students at the time, very limited budget, funding to be able to do anything. We had to take advantage of the technology to push the business forward. So I took an interest in digital marketing. And that's where When Loyal Digital comes in. So they're also together with another friend of mine who was also a Google Student Ambassador at the time, got certification to become what is now called, I think it's called Google Ads. I haven't done it in a while. But it used to be called AdWords. So you need to have a certification to be able to run ads on behalf of companies. And I believe at the time there were very few people, if at all, who had this certification in Ghana. So it was a unique opportunity for me to take the learnings from the opportunities that I gotten from Google to grow my business, and then ultimately earn some money for myself as well whilst in school. So then the natural progression of this was that I still did have a lot of interest in writing code, developing, doing the hardcore engineering work, and partnered later on with my current business partner, Stanley, to launch Effect Studios. So Effect Studios was a combination at the time of our, the software engineering skills from my end and the creative design skills from his end put together, and then we became a combination of these two parts. So let's just give you like a little overview on the things that I've done to get to this point. Currently, I'm involved in quite a number of things outside of Effect Studios, but this just gives you a picture of what the journey has looked like for me to get to this point as far as the conversations for today is concerned. So just a few interesting things that have happened throughout the time, and I think is worth sharing. So, we're doing our Parafix. We started doing it from small. Actually, we didn't have an office, so it was basically our dorm room, to getting our own place where people could physically come to us now, and either get services, purchases, or repairs. We launched a African theme branded phone case line called Afro Case, which went global for the period for which it was active. And with regards to FX Studios, we've been involved in quite a number of landmark things that have happened. And if you live in Ghana, you probably may have had an opportunity to attend or be a part of some of the things that we've been directly involved in, like Polo Beach Club, Tech Connect Africa, and even the launch of the new sandbox as it is today. Now, FX Studios originally, like I mentioned, started as a creative design agency, to doing, so we're doing a lot of design work for advertising primarily. So that's how we were meeting clients and doing work, doing business. Most of the projects I would have worked on at the time either had a mixture of digital marketing in there one way or another, and some combinations of modern architecture, events. We're doing a lot of things basically, but we're touching so many touch points across the digital ecosystem. But we have currently transitioned from doing all of these things to focusing on the two main things that we are really good at, which is branding and software product development. So currently, most of the other service lines that people come to us to work with us on, we would either outsource, or if they want us to manage, or we would basically refer them to people that we think are better at doing it than ourselves, which is something that has also been my guiding principle for life and in business, that it's good to have domain knowledge over a lot of things, but it's even better to be a specialist of one. Now, moving forward, we have had, the opportunity to work on over 100 projects across more than 20 industries, from global, giants like Total Energies, Maseratis, to local companies in Ghana like the DVLA, Ghana Cocoa Board, Skin Gourmet, Everpure, and our projects have taken us across different sectors. So from everything from automotive to finance, consumer goods to technology, and then even other creative industries. So the diversity here in our portfolio shows, our ability to adapt and innovate regardless of the industry. It allows us to wear multiple hats and then have a lot of experience working across so many different industries and understanding the interconnections between all of them. Now, we've also worked with businesses at different stages of their life cycle. So whether it's a startup that's trying to find its feet and disrupt the market, or a mature corporation just aiming to reinvent themselves, maintain relevance, or even just add complementary pieces to work that they're already doing, we are flexible enough to adapt and deliver the value that they are looking for. So the experience across the various fields also has given us unique insights and a very versatile skill set that allows us to handle any challenge that we come across and then turn it into a success. It also means that we're able to internally maintain some of the best and brightest you could ever work with, continuously challenging us to be the best versions of ourselves. Now, I've spoken a lot about who I am, what we've done, and where we are at as an organization. We'll dive into the things that we are supposed to be doing today. So today we're going to be, sorry, today we're going to be diving into the art and science of product development. The goal is to be able to understand how these two realms intersect with each other in the tech industry specifically. Examine creativity and then methodological approaches come together to drive innovation and product development. We'll be looking at how you can understand that great products do not just rely on the technical frameworks that are used to build them, but also require a touch of creativity and art to truly resonate with users. Then the next thing we look at is how we are going to be enhancing the user experience. So the design part of the work is not really just about the aesthetics and making things look good. It needs to be intuitive and meets the user's needs and expectations. We also take a look at some of the scientific methods that is used in the product development lifecycle and how to make it more adaptive, react to feedback, and then continuously improve. And then, finally, I'll give you a few practical examples of things that we've done, projects that we've worked on, some of the case studies, and how that essentially will push you towards, fostering innovation. Now, we'll go into what product development is. Product development is, in its generality, is not really just about products that are software only. It's about creating something out of nothing and then getting to the point where it is you've conceptualized an idea and it's getting to the point of creating an impact in the market. Now, this step-by-step procedure here will give you like an idea of how you get from a thought in your mind to a product on the market and someone paying you for it. Now, the idea generation stage is like the most critical part of things. The idea doesn't need to be refined. It can be, at its various minimum, and it can be in any shape or form. So it's possible that you look at it from a problem side or a solution side. You are not necessarily looking for perfection at this stage. So a lot of brainstorming and creativity is required here. Then now you move on to the next stage. So you could have a cluster of ideas, and then from there you move from step one, then going on to step two, where you are screening through your ideas, like thinking about what is viable, what will work, what wouldn't work, and how feasible it is. What does the market potential look like? Does it align with any of your business goals or objectives? You are thinking through the various shapes and forms of the idea at this stage. Then you move on to the next step, where you are looking at picking the one you want to move forward with. So at this point, you've kind of gone through some thinking and thought process, done a little research, surface level research, and then you're moving on to the next stage where you want to develop it into something that can be tested. So if it's a piece of tech, then you might have some sketches about how it's going to look like and get it to a point where you can, test whether people would want it or not, how that is going to work. Then you move on to the next step, which is if I have a really good idea, the idea I've developed it got to the point where it's testable. So you have something that you can try and know whether it will work or not. You do your marketing strategy and business analysis, where you focus on what does a business landscape look like. Do you have competition on the market? What are the potential barriers to entering? How will you position the products? What's the pricing going to look like? And how would you promote it if you have to? So you are, moving forward from conceptualization stage to seeing whether at this point is it really viable with regards to the markets, especially if it's a product that is supposed to be profit generating. Once you've fine-tuned it at this stage, you now enter the stage of developing the product. So this is where you would now deal with making it into a fully functional product, which will involve like very fine-tuned product design work, engineering, and then you're preparing for the market. Typically, most products or most startups or businesses that are entering for the first time would like to do some testing. You hear words like beta testing, alpha testing, etc. All they are simply trying to do here is try and get a focus group, send the product to them to test. So this is like who would have been your typical customer, to try and see how they would react to the product at this point. And if there are any changes you can make to tweak it so that it's still in alignment with what your overall business strategy is. And then you also have real world data to support this. And then finally, you can launch. Once the product is live, you are continuously iterating and innovating, taking customer feedback. So you are improving the software, or if it's a hardware solution, continuously. Because in the space and the world of technology, things move really fast, and you have to continuously be improving to stay relevant, not only for your customers, but also for potential new entrants into the market. So that's just something to keep in mind. This is just to give you just a bird's eye view of how a product goes from idea stage all the way to launch. Now we would take a quick look at explore the artistic side of product development, where we are not just referring to the aesthetics of it, but also like what the systematic process looks like. So for us, we've tried different ways of doing work, and also worked with several designers of different disciplines over the years. And I have come to the realization that you usually have two main types of designers: those who are extremely gifted, naturally can generate anything out of nothing, and they with them typically have to wait on some form of inspiration, which can come in so many forms. It doesn't have its own timing. So you are going to have situations where project is needed at a particular time, but your designer is not having enough inspiration to get it moving. So there is the possibility of releasing work that is subpar, because it is not the designer's fault. It is just how their gifts were given to them, so to speak. So in order to sort of guide this and then have a system where every time repeatedly you're able to generate great work, you need to have a system for guiding how the creativity comes through. How you do this is by simply, not simply. So you have your design direction. In our case, you have the art director or creative director do some research on what the design directions are supposed to look like. Just give you a sense of fonts, colors, images, and how they should be used on a general level, and then get alignment from client or the product owner, and then you shift and move on to an ideation stage where you design a few major screens to kind of get a sense of what will be visually appealing or not not just for ourselves, but also for the people that we are designing for, all the way to before you get to your final design. So it's essential that we are having conceptualizations of the solutions while still maintaining the user experiences that we ultimately want to achieve throughout this process. Then the next thing also is we recognize that now most devices that we are interacting with digital content on have a lot more space. Your phones are bigger, your laptop screens have less bezel, desktop screens, so on, TVs are getting bigger. Everything just generally has a lot more space. And sometimes also we have to consider the fact that user behavior is moving towards the point where people want a lot of instant gratification and their attention spans are small or short. So we need to use all of the visual cues that we have to continue to drive interactions. And this is where motion comes in. So motion allows you to move beyond static designs, allows you to guide the user's attention where it's most needed, from subtly prioritizing information through movements. And this can be very effective when you are dealing with complex interfaces where you want to draw the user's attention to specific sections or specific pieces of content. Some of the examples of this is like on the screen on the right, where when you have the image pop up, the image is active, engaging, draws the user's attention in, and then now you want them to read, and then you now tell them what to do next. The motion allows you to be able to present the information in that hierarchy so that the user doesn't have to mentally exert themselves in understanding or trying to get a better sense of what they should look at first or consume first. So this is one of the ways where we use motion together with the imagery, shapes, colors, etc., to present information in a meaningful way. The next thing that I want us to look at is design thinking. Design thinking is not just a buzzword, it's a systematic approach to innovation that focuses on understanding and solving the user's problems. So, and this process is crucial in ensuring that the products that we develop truly resonate with the users and solve their problems. So it's been a largely deployed way of thinking about problems and providing solutions. The first step in the design thinking process one is empathy. You look at how you can empathize with your users by gaining insights into their needs, behaviors, and motivations. So you're essentially trying to place yourself in their shoes and try and experience their problems through their eyes, ears, and their viewpoints. Then the next step is defining the problems that you are able to identify at this stage. The goal here is to not make any assumptions, but to try and, as much as possible, grab all of the nuances of the problem through the viewpoint of the original problem bearer. Then you go to the next stage where you are ideating through what solutions would solve each of the problems that you identify and the nuances that are attached to them. Now, at this stage, given that you are still not the person who is going through it and you would need further clarifications on whether or not it effectively solves their problems, depending on what prioritization you've done for which comes first in the problem identification stage. You would go on and make prototypes. So the prototypes will provide visually an idea of, it's a visual representation of what the solutions would look like. And then you go on to testing and then continuously test and refine the prototype to at a point that is acceptable for solving the problem. Then you move on to the implementation stage. And you continue to go through the cycle over and over till the problem gets solved. In reality, it never stops. The cycle never stops because as your business or product continues to grow and scale, the variance in your user group will continue to be expand. And as the expansion happens, the problems begin to get wider and wider and wider and wider, and you have to continuously go through this process of solving. So you again maintain relevance and importance to your not only your user groups, so your existing customers, but again potential customers and competitors. The underlining thing here is to focus on understanding the user's needs and developing products that solve real world problems. And this will lead to products that are not only functional, but also intuitive and delightful to use. Diving a little bit more into the science and the product development, I'll just touch on two main methodologies that I have used and is widely used in the industry. So you have agile development, where you're emphasizing on flexibility and continuous improvement, responding to feedback. And then you have the lean startup methodology, where you want to get to a minimum viable product, test your assumptions quickly, iterate quickly. You would probably may have come across the term amongst like most tech founders that you want to fail as quickly as you can, so that you can know what is right and what needs to be done. Now, agile, let me just sidestep again. So agile is not just about speed, and it's also about responsiveness and continuous improvement. So you work in short cycles or sprints. Your teams can iterate very quickly and ensure that ensuring that the final products that you deliver is always meeting the user's needs. It also allows you to reduce the risk of large-scale failures because you are making the adjustments continuously throughout the development process and not at the end. So, in practically speaking, you don't take a project problem, you have your solution, build all the way to the end, and then go to markets before you realize, okay, it's fits, you have your product market fit or not. You're able to continuously do it throughout the development process. And together with some of the tenets of lean, where you are trying to reduce as much wastage as possible by design, will give you the best opportunities, especially if you're a small business or medium business, to scale your operations and then grow your products. Incorporating these scientific methods into product development is crucial because it allows you to align with the rapid pace of technological advancements as the market is changing. The obvious example here is how we see the use of the proliferation of AI, ChatGPT, and other LLMs essentially changing the entire market space over a period of less than 2 years. So you could have literally been in the process of building a product if you're not adapting any of these two methodologies, and your products would have been dead on arrival. But if you are being as agile as possible, then you are able to continuously make improvements as you go along. Now, the other thing to consider here, since we're looking at a combination of arts and science, is that you need to be able to utilize analytics and make data-driven decisions, using the analytics to understand how user behavior, their preferences will give you a good enough opportunity to have very good product performance. Now, the outcome of this is that you have enhanced decision making, ensuring that your products are aligned with the actual user needs and then the market trends. Some of the questions that have been asked in the past is, okay, if I'm a small business that is now, or I'm just at idea stage and I'm trying to get my product onto the market, how am I going to leverage data analytics for data that I don't have? The simple answer that I usually would give is that, especially in today's day and age, you very rarely have a product idea that does not have an existing one in some way, shape, or form already on the market. Maybe not in your market, it could be in a different market altogether. But what that gives you is the ability to go look at what other people who are leading in whichever segment of the markets that you are trying to build a product for are doing, and then base the structure of your idea off of what they are doing. And the simple reason behind this is every large business, as soon as they are able to afford it, recognizes that you need data to be able to make informed decisions. You cannot make decisions based off of your intuition or how you feel about things. It needs to be backed by data because you build the products for your users. So you have to look at how they are interacting with you or your competitors, and how do you gain an edge in this regard. So those that are at the top of the ladder spend and invest a lot of money in doing user research and understanding how users are behaving. So more often than not, they are going to be building their products or making adjustments to align with what users expect and would interact with better. And this gives you a unique opportunity to tap into the work they have already done to build yours without having to spend the same amount of resources. Now, I just highlight a little bit how we are doing it at Effect Studios. So typically, our process goes through, like these phases. We have our research phase, then we would go into understanding what the user process flows will look like, and we do a high level, low level actually, wireframe of what will happen with every interaction and what the expected outcomes are before going into the high fidelity designs. And then the next stage we prototyping. So we are doing testing and getting feedback. We do A/B tests, etc., to be able to be sure that what is being designed is meeting expectations. And then there's a documentation stage, and then you hand it over to engineering teams. So there is no guesswork once it gets into engineering. We try and put all of as much pressure as possible on the design side of things, because that's where we're able to play around and break things very quickly with the help of the arts and the scientific part of the process. So I'll just give you a little overview on how we do this. So, for example, if we are going to build a platform for a client or even ourselves, the first thing that we'll do is look at international brands or businesses that have the same products or similar products, who are doing the best at individual services that are within that suite of solutions. And then we shortlist the top ones, and then based off of research that's available up to this point for the purpose of understanding how they structure their content and delivery. And then if it means we need to create accounts on those platforms, or we have a contact at the organization, or if in some cases it's a platform we built, then we have to ask for permission on what we can use the data for or otherwise, and then carry that into our design research stage, where we would use platforms like Dribble Awards, CSS Awards, DNAD to get references for award-winning projects on a global scale. And then based off of that, we'll create our visual guides, and then also check with the clients or ourselves if there's an existing brand guide, and then have an alignment of these two things. And then finally work through the mood board, go through the user process flow, design process, and so on and so forth. So this systematic but at the same time flexible approach allows us to maintain the same quality and innovation throughout like any kind of project that we are doing. So our products are not just creatively appealing, but they're also robust and then user-centered. Next, I would show you a few of the projects that we've worked on, maybe like one or two of them, and what we did with them. So Wholesome Craft is a diet and nutrition company based in Accra, and just a sec. So, Wholesome Craft, diet and nutrition company, they basically make diet plans, customized meal plans for people that are trying to gain weight, maintain weight, and lose weight, and trying to meet any of their specific health goals by trying to get a good understanding of what your lifestyle and medical situation is, and then curating a meal plan that meets your needs. And once the meal plans have been designed, they will not only let you know what kind of meals you'll be having, what your calorie counts are supposed to be, etc., but actually cook and deliver the meals to you daily. Now, when we started working with them, they had about 30 to 50 customers. In the 2-3 years space where we've been working with them, we've seen their revenue grow significantly. Customer growth has also grown significantly. Number of meals being prepared in the hundreds of thousands. Now, how this was done was one by digitizing key components of the value chain. So from customer intake, meal preparation, labeling, and then delivery and tracking. These were the key pain points. And once we introduced some level of automation in the business was able to adapt and scale quickly. Another project that we've worked on is the Total Energies reporting app. So the purpose of this platform was one, I think, was the aftermath of the gas explosion incident in Accra. Total has always been a company that prides itself on safety, high safety standards. Now, the application essentially helps to accentuate that further by creating a platform where customers like ourselves and then also staff are able to report any safety incident of different types whenever we come across it. so that these incidents get passed on to the maintenance teams in real time, and then they can address based on the level of severity or otherwise, and then resolve. Since we've been working on this, there have been close to 20,000 potential incidents avoided because they were reported and addressed, and it's been deployed in about 3 countries. There are a few other projects also that we've worked on across different industries, but I just wanted to take these two for the purpose of today's discussion, to give you a sense of how having products that are nice to look at but also functional can have real world impact. I think at this point, we come to some of the tools that we have used, and I can also recommend for anybody that is looking at entering into product development. For management, project management software, you have Asana, there's ClickUp, Monday, Jira, Trello, there are a few others. For us, we use ClickUp because we have a multidisciplinary team cutting across design and engineering, and then it provides us with the best, in our opinion, tool for having a seamless integration for both teams and how we can work together. Then for design and prototyping tools, there's also a myriad of tools available: Figma, Sketch, Adobe XD, Miro. There's a lot of them, but for us, we typically work with Figma and Miro. These tools are good for designing the user interfaces, working out the user process flows quickly, iterate quickly, and then collaboratively between internal teams and then external products owners or vendors. And then lastly, you have the analytics tools that you can use to track and get data on how users are interacting with your platforms and leverage that to make informed decisions. We typically use Google Analytics, can use Hotjar, which helps you see what track heat maps on your product, see what they are clicking, viewing. There are various activities that they perform on the platform. And then lastly, Tableau, which is also good for visualizing data that is collected, complex data, and then presenting them in a visually intuitive manner. So I think this brings me to the end of my very, very long talk. Thank you so much for your time, and I will take any questions anybody has.
All right. So, Michael, thank you so much. I think it was worthwhile. You're saying it was a long presentation, but I felt it was very worthwhile, very insightful. And I love how you combine the theoretical aspects, the conceptual aspects with the practical, real-world examples from your entrepreneurial journey with Effect Studios. And in particular, one thing that struck me was when you mentioned that you practice benchmarking your designs against established brands to get inspiration for subsequent projects. And I think that really struck a chord with me. So thank you so much for your presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we'll dive into the question and answer session. So if you have any questions on Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo's presentation, questions on product development, or any questions on your mind regarding entrepreneurship in Africa, startups, you could feel free and then drop your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hands. You can raise your hands virtually, and you'll be given the opportunity to ask your question. Okay, so I think everyone totally absorbed your presentation. Personally, I'd like to find out your lead generation process. Okay. From your presentation, I found out that you have a number of very established companies, multinationals, conglomerates, as part of your clients. So what I'm curious to know is what strategies do you deploy in getting, for want of a better word, these contracts with these established companies? How do you manage to, even before you get to the product development stage, how do you manage to turn a prospective, client into an actual client?
Okay. I think you asked like two questions at the same time. But so typically, for us, we have most of our growth has been very organic. We've been we typically get clients through referrals. So we would have done work for somebody who is a friend of a friend or a colleague of a colleague, and would give us a recommendation in their workplace or to someone who's a decision maker about our skills and services that we have to offer. And that's typically what will start the conversation around what we can do for them, and how we can potentially do business together. I think with regards to what the process looks like from start to finish, because we, especially now, have had the opportunity to work across so many different industries and so many industries, companies of different sizes, we get to see problems at its infancy and then on a very large scale, and see how different solutions might impact the problem depending on the size of the organization, the skill of their users in terms of size, and how savvy they are with technology. We're able to have very, adept conversations with some of these business owners and decision makers. So we walk into a conversation about a particular problem already most of the time having a potential solution to what they need to solve, or may have done something similar in either the same industry or another industry that can be adapted to solve their problems. So it makes a lot of the conversations that we have, especially as infancy, even if there is no opportunity for immediate work, very fruitful. And then that is how we naturally manage the conversations and leads till they convert and then become business for us.
Okay. All right. So if I got you right, it's primarily through referrals, recommendations, and then you try your best to engage the decision makers at the top level.
Yes, correct.
Communicate the value that you can provide their company, their said company.
Yes. Okay. I hope I answered your question
adequately. Very well. Okay, so I've seen we have the head of human resource at Regent University College on the call, Mr. Ayubampo. I don't know if you'd want to make any submissions or ask any questions. If not, thanks so much for connecting. Okay, another thing I noticed during your presentation was I can tell that you have a very good working relationship with your co-founder. I love how you're able to, speak on his behalf, speak on behalf of your company. I could easily tell that there's some fluidity and at least there's understanding, between both of you. I'm sure you know where I'm taking this. Yeah, so, recently there have been some, high-profile news stories on co-founders that had fallen out. And I know it happens sometimes on entrepreneurial journey. Sometimes the both co-founders might have different visions for the company's direction and, ideological differences and whatnot. So what I would want to find out from you is, how do you manage to, manage your relationship with your co-founder, and yeah, basically manage it and then promote a very congenial relationship with your co-founder. Do you, for instance, have a contract, or yeah, how do you go about that? How do you navigate that?
Okay. I think, yeah, this is a question that I've been asked so many times, about how because the general notion is that, like, especially in our part of the world, that partnerships don't work. And that seems to be the norm, but we've managed to find a way to make it work. I think the underlying factor here is like to always have open lines of communication. And for us also, we had both been, we started our entrepreneurial journeys very early next to each other, but not necessarily together, because I've known him since we were in boarding school. We're doing different things, similar space, but not together. So from afar, you have an understanding of how we both work and function. But more importantly, once we start working together, to have open lines of communication and speak very freely about what we want. We aligned on the vision from day one, and we have to continuously remind ourselves that this is the goal. There are things that will be a means to an end, and some of the things are an end in itself. And I think if founders are able to have the conversation and have clarity on what those specific things are, it makes it easier to navigate challenges when they come, because inevitably they will come. So whenever it does come up, you're able to not lose sight of what is important and what isn't, because at the end of the day, we are different. We are individuals in our own rights, and we would have things that we want, don't want, can tolerate, cannot tolerate, and so on and so forth. But maintaining that open line of communication and continuously keeping your eyes on the prize allows you to see through what is important, what is not. And if there's ever a point where you feel like the visions are not aligned, you are able to adjust and move forward amicably. I think using our case as an example, the business started trying to do so many different things. Over the years, we have changed and become what we are today. I don't know what the next 10 years will look like, but we have an understanding of what the goal is. So as the vision continues to grow, change, and evolve, we also adjust accordingly. But the tenets of having an open line of communication and alignment on our goals allows us to stay on track all the time.
Okay. Right. Okay, so as a quick reminder, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop your question in the chat box, or you can raise your hand. You can do it. You can press the virtual hand raising feature, and you'll be given an opportunity to ask your question on Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo's presentation on the art and science of product development. Okay. Follow-up question. You spoke about Africa, about some particular things being peculiar to, doing business in Africa, such as, co-founder relations, and the impression that some people have that most often than not, the co-founder relationships don't work out well. Okay, so I want to find out also, from your experience, I know you travel a lot, and you've had the opportunity of doing business in different jurisdictions. So I would want to know, what do you think we should do in Ghana or Africa to promote entrepreneurship, from your experience in doing business in other jurisdictions like the United Arab Emirates, etc., etc.? what do you think we should do differently in Ghana or Africa to maybe promote entrepreneurship and to support entrepreneurs?
A very loaded question.
Okay, let me define. What can we do to support entrepreneurs in this part of our world, that's Ghana or Africa? As an entrepreneur yourself, what would you recommend that government,
Yeah, I think
do to support entrepreneurship?
I think at the base of entrepreneurship is problem solving. So entrepreneurs by definition and practice are always trying to solve one problem or another. The difference I have seen with what the barriers are for this problem solving venture in different parts of the world is the enabling environment that is provided by whatever system or regulations exist. And it happens everywhere, but I think perhaps the barriers can sometimes be a bit more frustrating within the continent than without, because by design, the way the system, when I say the system, I mean our governmental systems and regional systems are designed, it doesn't foster a lot of collaboration and innovation at its core. So it makes it difficult for you as an individual trying to push through to navigate some of these unintended blockades. It's something that is difficult to navigate if you compare being an entrepreneur in most of Africa versus the rest of the world. Or simple things like getting your business registered. What are the taxation requirements? What does that look like? Hiring. How are you as a service provider protected if your clients are not meeting their obligations? The legal framework supports these things. There are little things like that are sometimes not fully mature in our part of the world as against others. And that can sometimes be a major impediment if we are looking at things from Africa and let's say Ghana specifically, as compared to the rest of the world. I think the other thing too is, and I see this as by design, the enabling environments will also ultimately boil down to access to capital to make these ideas a reality. In some parts of the world, sometimes you need next to no collateral, just a good idea, and you'll be able to access capital to bring the solution to fruition. But if we take Ghana as an example, even if you're able to access the capital, the interest rates are killing you, as an example. So being able to sustainably grow the business becomes a real challenge. And if we are going to see real progress happen in the space, then, like I was mentioning, at its core, the system needs to make very specific adjustments to support or encourage problem solving at its core. Then it can be amplified on a national and then continental level.
Okay. Okay. I have a follow-up question. So from the experience of FX Studios, how have you been able to leapfrog these challenges? Access to capital, high interest rates, from your own experience as an entrepreneur. How have you been able to leapfrog these challenges? Access to capital. Do you mind sharing?
I wouldn't say we are leapfrogging the challenges, but you have to try and like tactfully navigate them. So, you know, like, I mean, for us, our growth has been very organic. So you start with one client, then you get to 5, you get to 10, and so on and so forth. And so we are basically spending the money that we generate. We've not had to go that route yet, thankfully. But I can speak to it because, I work in the space. I meet other people who are going through similar and sometimes like much more intricate challenges with regards to, what the regulatory framework is like, getting access to capital, revenue, expenses continuously growing. I can give you like one very simple example. We've had, say, our a lot of we use a lot of tools like I showed you in the previous slides that are being built in dollars. Some of them have kept their prices the same for 5 years, but because we live in Ghana, our cost of using those tools has gone up like 500% over the 5-year period. That is not something that, even if you have access to the capital, that problem doesn't get solved because now your cost is also going up by no fault of yours. So these are like some of the challenges that we face, and you have to continuously find a way of navigating it. I always say that working in tech is like firefighting every day. So every day you wake up, then depending on the type of fire that is there, you know whether you use baking soda or water to put it out.
Awesome. Okay, so there's a question from Passover Blessed Samuel.
Okay. So the question
He
is,
wants to know from your perspective how AI impact the world.
I think AI is going to significantly change how we do a lot of things, and just like how the internet has restructured how we are doing things. Today we are having this call on the internet. I could be anywhere around the world, and we are all able to meet and have the conversation. And that was not possible before the internet and available to people on a large scale. I think immediately, AI would be something that we use as a complementary piece to the things that we are doing right now that is powering like a lot of the technology that exists today. But in the future, maybe in like 5, 10, 20 years time, it would basically be how technology on a global scale runs. So things that human beings can pass on to a piece of technology to handle for them, we will do, just like we have done throughout all of civilization. So I think the best thing for everyone is to educate yourself as much as possible on what is possible with this piece of technology so that you get ahead of it and not get left behind when it becomes the norm.
Okay, I hope that answers your question, Passover Blessed Samuel. Okay, there's a message from Mrs. Dorothy Mettle-Nunoo. She says, this is more of a comment than a question. I think this discussion has been truly insightful, and I'm glad I logged in. From Clara Mettle-Nunoo. Thank you so much for the very positive feedback. Okay, now that we're talking about AI, I would want to know what AI tools do you use on a day-to-day basis for maybe to improve your productivity or to accomplish tasks at your business? Any specific AI tools that you'd recommend?
I think the top ones that most people use already. ChatGPT it's a very good tool to have. You can, depending on how well you use it, it can cut down the amount of time you spend on doing a lot of rudimentary things. You can even teach it. You can essentially like pass on information that you have already gathered. So next time you are doing something that you typically do every day, you can pass on those pieces of information and then have it optimize your workflow for you. So that's something that a tool that I encourage everyone to use. Other than that, I think all of the tools that we use for work have now some AI integration of some sort to reduce the amount of time, again, that we are spending on rudimentary things that we do repeatedly. So anything that we can avoid doing over and over again by leveraging AI, we do. So we have it in our project management tools, design tools, engineering tools, GitHub, Copilots, etc. But yeah, ChatGPT and all this accompanying add-ons is a good starting point for someone who's just looking at dipping your toes into it. Okay, I see another question. What are the do's and don'ts you would advise young entrepreneurs? Sheesh. Another very loaded question. So to answer your question about what I would advise young entrepreneurs to do or not do, I'm also young, so how do I answer this question? I think in terms of what you're going to be doing is to try and fail as quickly as you can. Try as many things to solve a problem that you've identified as much as possible till you get to the point of finding a solution that is long-lasting and sustainable, and will also put money in your pocket and impact your society positively. As far as like the things to not do, I would say the number one thing is to not fall in love with your solution before you have solved the problem. Because I think a lot of the time, and this has happened to me as well several times, where you feel like you have a solution to a problem that you've not fully understood. So you are married to the solution and continuously try to improve that solution, even though it is not solving a problem that has maybe perhaps not even been identified. I think there is more maybe I could speak to, but I think these are the few things that come to my mind immediately.
Awesome job. I've been listening throughout. Big fan of what you've done, of course. I've intended effect videos before, so I might be biased, but you're doing great stuff out there. We're all viewers of Blue. God bless you. Once again, inspiring conversation. Can we celebrate Mr. Nico? That's a new for Mr. Larbi.
Thank you very much, Mr. James Larbi. There's another submission in the chat box from Najib Tosin. Okay. Can you see the question from where you are?
Yes. So the question is, what advice do you have for individuals who are looking to get into product management? I think so. In an ideal world, someone getting into product management would be, especially in software product management, would be someone that has had some experience on the business side of things and then has a working knowledge of how the technology works. If the person has neither, then the first step will be to educate yourself on how software products are built by joining sessions like this, and also having a working knowledge of the industry for which that product is trying to solve a problem for. Once you have these two things, you have a working knowledge of these two things, you'll be able to dip your toes in the management of the product, because essentially it's a combination of understanding the technology and then solving a problem for the industry. So once you educate yourself on these two things, you should be able to do it. And I guess find an opportunity to actually shadow someone who is doing it, go through that process, learn, and then you should be able to do it yourself. That's what I think.
Thank you very much. My next question, as young entrepreneurs, there are a lot of young entrepreneurs on this call, and you are a young entrepreneur yourself. I'd want to know, in a society like Ghana, for instance, that's quite ageist. How do you find, how do you manage to engage with older clients that are older than you, maybe leading a workforce with perhaps staff that may be older than you? How do you manage to navigate around some of these issues as a relatively young entrepreneur?
Okay, so I think there's a second question in the chat for how do you navigate the Ghanaian political system, who to fairly bid for projects and programs without necessarily falling in with any politician. Anyway, so I'll answer the first one and then I answer this one as well. So I think for me, or from my personal experience, I tried to use everything that I had available to me to be able to endear myself with the decision makers. As much as there is that, I don't want to call it ageism, but you get my point. It exists. In order to navigate that, you have to also be culturally aware of what these people and decision makers expect. So if it is things like you walk into a meeting and they expect you to greet them before you take a seat, you wait for them to offer you a seat, things like that. You have to educate yourself on that and know how to navigate it so that you are on their good side as you begin to have what is seemingly the difficult conversations. And I think this is not even necessarily peculiar to just Ghana alone. You do business in other parts of the world, it's essentially the same thing, where you might go into a meeting and say, for example, you have a meeting over lunch and you decide you want to pay for the bill because where you're from, you cover the bill. It may be seen as disrespectful or otherwise. So it's important for you to be culturally aware and understand how you navigate each situation differently from each other. There are so many other things like how you dress, how you show up, how you talk, when to maybe use please, thank you, all of these. So it requires a lot of situational awareness to be able to navigate it skillfully. I think that is the way I have managed to get some success with it, and if I'm going to advise anyone to do the same. Now, the second question on how we navigate the Ghanaian political system. Unfortunately, it is not a Ghana-specific issue. It is a global situation as well. People would always want to work with the people that they are more comfortable with or have built some relationship with. And one of the things that I've learned in my journey is that businesses are built on relationships and not always necessarily on your skill. You notice that I mentioned like our growth has been purely organic and through referrals, which means that the people knew us personally in some way, shape, or form, or they've heard of us and have some level of affinity with what we do and how we do it. So you are not going to be able to build a body of work that will even be a conversation starter in some of these spaces if you haven't built the relationships that is required to get you into those spaces. That is the way business works on, even on a global level. At some of the biggest multinational firms that you can think of and some of the biggest deals you've ever heard of, it is as a result of the relationships 1, 2, 3 people have, and that's what materializes into the deals that you eventually hear about. So that's a very simple. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but it's the fact of the matter.
Okay, I think time is fast spent, so let's take just one more question. Any questions from the audience? Any questions or submissions? If not, I'll proceed to my last question. Okay, so there's a question from Derek Nelson. He says, you've gone through a parafix into digital marketing and now into something different. How do you know it's time to transition into your next project?
Okay. I think it might be different for other people as well, because I've spoken to people that have transitioned as well. But for me, there's always been a connection from one thing to the other. And you'd also always notice that the underlying thing here is that all of these businesses are tech businesses at its core. And I personally believe in trying to be a specialist at one thing. So I know the one thing that I'm very good at and want to always play to my strengths. So given that I'm working in a particular space or in a particular venture, I may come across through my line of work and FX studios, especially like that is I think it's at that phase where I've began to understand a lot of things on a much deeper level and then also have access to a lot more information to make some of these informed decisions on what the next frontier looks like and be able to understand when is right or how you can segue into the next thing. I think for me, it's always been that the rules change somewhat, but ultimately it is still a technology-based business solving problems. So it might look different, but it's essentially doing one of the same thing. And I think sometimes I just also do it because I don't want to get bored doing the same thing over and over and over again. But what I've also heard in my conversations with other people that have shifted from one industry completely to another is that they either get to a point where they feel like they have done everything that they wanted to achieve, whatever their goal is at that point, and their work is just not fulfilling for them anymore. I mean, I know we work because we want the financial benefits that come with the work, but at some point also, it's important to listen to what your mind and body is telling you with regards to whether it is fulfilling, it's a fulfilling endeavor for you. And when that is no longer the case, to find what's next So you continuously stay motivated in the right state of mind, and then you can chase your dreams.
All right. So thank you. Our very last question, Michael, if you'd share some advice with young entrepreneurs or African entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who want to thrive in the 21st century marketplace, what words of advice would you share?
Oh, okay. I think I was answering that question when you dropped off. But
okay, all right.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, I was simply
concluding thoughts then. You could share your concluding thoughts then on for today.
Okay, I think, well, first and foremost, thanks for the opportunity to get to talk about the things I do on an everyday basis. It's been refreshing to do this. I don't get to do it often, if at all. So thanks for the opportunity to do it. Also, the questions were very much welcome and forced me to think and answer some difficult thoughts or engage with some difficult thoughts. So that was also welcoming. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do this. And I pray that I get bigger problems to solve, mainly because once you solve problems that are bigger, the impact is larger. So I can have a much bigger say on what the next generation of people in our industry and in life in general would come to see as true.
All right. So thank you so much, Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo. It's been a very insightful session. I've learned a lot. I took a lot of notes. And I know the topic was product development, the art and science of product development, but you covered a lot of very relevant topics: sales and marketing, artificial intelligence, relationship marketing, team management. And I think I took a whole lot from your presentation. And I believe I speak on behalf of the audience when I say that. So thank you so much for taking time off your busy schedule. I know your schedule is very hectic. You travel a lot and you combine that with studies full time. So we do not take your time at all for granted. And for you not holding back your wealth of experience and just your expertise on entrepreneurship and your journey so far. And we would like to congratulate you on your successes, many, many successes that you and your team at Effect Studios have chalked so far. I believe the best is yet to come, and there are so many more successes, and I believe things you would learn along the journey, and we would hope you'd come back and share these insights that you've learned on your entrepreneurial journey. So thank you once again, Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for connecting from all around the world. We've had the privilege of listening to Mr. Michael Mettle-Nunoo, who is the co-founder of Effect Studios. And it's been a very, very insightful session. So our next session for the Tech Founders Fireside Chat will take place on May 16th. And we're once again privileged to have a distinguished speaker who goes by the name Olushola Amusan. He's an AI evangelist, a co-founder of Vesti, which is a fintech company, among other things. And he's the former head of corporate citizenship at Microsoft Nigeria. So he'll be speaking on scaling your tech startup. So if you want any updates on upcoming webinars and events, do feel free to connect with Regent University College on Facebook and on our other social media platforms. So thank you once again for connecting tonight. And I'd like to thank Enoch Damtse, who's been assisting us with the back-end technical stuff, recording the webinar, which will be available, I should say, on our social media platforms for the benefit of those who want to listen to the session. So thank you so much once again. My name is Benjamin Larbi, and it's been an absolute pleasure moderating this session. And I hope you connect once again in the not too distant future. Thank you. And until next time, it's goodbye.